My name is Sam Goldstein. I was raised here in Toronto in the Jewish community. I went to a Hebrew school from when I was 4 years old for 10 years. That was Zionist, which means we grew up learning that what it meant to be Jewish was tied to Israel.
I'll let this man explain what that means.
Well, 3,000 years ago, God promised Abraham that he would show him a land that would be for him and for his descendants, Isaac and Jacob and everyone that came after. And we were there for many, many years until about 2,000 years ago when our temple was destroyed and we were exiled.
Well, that's certainly the gist. After that, the Romans kicked us out, and we dispersed throughout the Roman Empire and became a diasporic community, living in communities all over the world.
My family came here from the Russian Empire around the turn of the 20th century. There was a lot of oppression of the Jewish people of the Russian Empire. They were only allowed to live in certain parts of the country, what was called the Pale of Settlement. They were not really allowed to participate in the higher echelons of society in Russia. This is my family synagogue. My mom's great-grandparents, they were founding members of the original Beth Lida synagogue. Beth Lida is named after Lida, this town in Belarus where my entire family comes from.
My family was lucky enough to escape in the decades before the Holocaust. And after 2/3 of Europe's Jewish population were murdered, the idea, Zionism, of creating a state for the Jewish people in what had once been Israel became much more appealing.
I played in a Jewish hockey league, I went to Jewish synagogues, had my bar mitzvah at Temple Sinai here in Toronto.
And all of these pillars of my communal Jewish life place Israel at the center of what it means to be a Jew. But after a year of one of the most brutal wars in Middle East history, I find myself asking if what it means to be a Jew has changed for me.
Israeli politicians and military commanders are publicly and shamelessly calling the 2.3 million Palestinians in Gaza human animals and labeling them as legitimate targets. Shame!
There's a lot of anger spilling into the streets of Toronto right now, and when Israel comes under fire, the popular narrative tends to focus on anti-Semitism. And while I have no doubt anti-Semites are feeling emboldened in the current moment, I worry this is allowing us to ignore things we really need to hear.
I grew up with no exposure to Palestinians, or really Arabs or Muslims. I cannot remember ever a time growing up in my corner of the Toronto Jewish bubble when the word Palestinian was not associated with terrorists.
I think it's really important that everyone has to have a right to tell their own story. So I sat down with Mesa Hawash, a Palestinian activist from Toronto, to hear the Palestinian side of the story.
I lived briefly in Amman when I was an infant, and then very briefly in Egypt. And then until I was 11, we lived in Tripoli in Libya.
Mesa wasn't born in Palestine because her parents were made refugees in the 1948 and 1967 wars.
So when obviously the Nakba happened, my mother's family who lived in Haifa on a street that used to be called Stanton Street, they were basically expelled. My grandmother and all of her children had to flee.
Nakba is the Arabic word for catastrophe. As Israel came into being, 750,000 Palestinians fled or were forced from their homes by Israeli paramilitaries. A further 300,000 Palestinians suffered the same fate in 1967. After years as refugees, Mesa's family moved to her father's home of Nablus in the West Bank.
There's such a magical feeling that this is our homeland, yet we're occupied people, and I experienced that occupation firsthand.
After the Six-Day War in 1967, Israel deployed a military occupation in their newly conquered Palestinian territories. The occupation has persisted for 3 generations, over time becoming more repressive.
I know a lot of people who got killed. Like, I saw people get killed in front of me. I got shot at a few times. Like, 13, 14, 15, like very young. Like tear gas, bullet, rubber bullets. I got all of that.
Across the diaspora, Jewish communities are organizing. The message: the Jewish people are under attack.
It's a shame. The people of Gaza had a pretty good life before October 7th. They were employed, they had nice homes, they had a good future, there was nothing wrong with it.
In the heart of Toronto's Jewish community at Bathurst and Shepherd, weekly rallies have been held in support of Israel all year long. I spoke to one of the organizers, Gidi Maman, and asked him what the rally was all about.
People want to murder Jews and kick us off this land, and we're not going. And the Jewish communities around the world support the state of Israel in the defense of the land. On October the 7th, 2023, 1,200 people were killed, massacred for no reason at all. And we're here to show unity and strength and to defend and support the state of Israel.
I grew up with the narrative that after the Holocaust, Jewish safety requires a Jewish state.
No, not safety. It's a matter of survival. Without the state of Israel, Jews around the world are nothing. Because we're always one pogrom or one Inquisition or one Holocaust away with nowhere to go.
In all my years of Jewish education, I never heard the word Nakba, never learned what a military occupation entailed. I think we've been isolating ourselves from uncomfortable truths about Israel, which is why so many of us have no explanation for the current protests beyond rampant anti-Semitism. It's really difficult when we can't agree on what the truth is. This is why we call it myth-making, because the stories we tell ourselves are myths about us. We do come from the Holy Land. We have always had a connection to it. No one's disputing that, or at least most people aren't. When we tell ourselves these stories, it's really hard to make room for the complications. Right now, the deepest complication in our comfortable narratives is the growing number of Jewish folk joining the ranks of the protests. A divide is forming in our community, so I connected with a Jewish mediator named Jeff Carolyn to see how we might bridge it.
Growing up, I went to Bialik Hebrew Day School here in the city. Oh, really? That's right. It was a lot of education about Israel. And I think that it made my identity as a Jewish person very much tied to the state of Israel in ways that I didn't understand at the time.
Jeff's story was extremely familiar.
I felt like a lot of these institutions and organizations and communities were inextricably linked to not just Israel, but like a particular understanding of the history that I was at this point, at the very least, realizing there was a lot more than I had been taught. And I found that even just mentioning of that, people would feel very threatened by, not want to hear it.
But now, during this war, Jeff does feel like he's connecting with Jews he previously couldn't reach.
I found myself in dialogue with a bunch of people who identify as religious Zionists, as sort of more conservative, and just sitting down and breaking bread together and talking and trying to understand what is this gulf or kind of fracture in the Jewish community, and is there a way to heal it? I just have come to a point where I can have my political views, whatever they are, but in this time when it feels like there's so much polarization and so much fear in anyone I talk to, that just listening to people, and if they want to know what I think about something, great, and if they don't, I'm happy to listen also.
I, as a Palestinian, can never lose hope. I will always hold on to that dream of a free Palestine. It starts with the land. It starts with knowing that we are the rightful owners and custodians of this land, and that no matter what happens, we will always have that yearning to go back, always, and it's never going to go away.
There's a West Bank peace activist from the West Bank named Hamza Alalde who says that hope is an action. It's something you do, it's something you create, and I've really been trying to, live into that.
What I really hope for is that my community here abroad in the diaspora can find ways to have real, honest, reconciliatory conversations about what happened when Israel was created and what has happened since then to the Palestinians, and how we can find a way to move forward as two communities who both see this place as our homes. Well, it's been almost 5 months, and I've been struggling with ending my peace. I wish I could say that I felt optimistic about the situation, but the truth is, I feel worse than ever. What is a Jewish person to feel when, on the one hand, the country so mythologized in our upbringing, Israel, stands accused of the most heinous of crimes, genocide, by the very institutions that were created because of the Holocaust to prevent future Holocausts? And on the other hand, the people most loudly claiming to stand for us are authoritarian strongmen with highly questionable allies. What does that say about us? Have we changed, or have I?